Well, it has been 6 months since Eric Paulson was elected to succeed Jim Ramstad in Minnesota's 3rd congressional district. He has been a co-sponsor of a bill to increase oversight of stimulus money and has also introduced legislation to protect Minnesota car dealers who have been targeted by GM and Chrysler to be shut down. Minnesota's newest member of Congress joins us now, Congressman Eric Paulson. Thank you so much.
Great to be here.
For coming in. Let me ask you about this effort in terms of Minnesota car dealers, because I know that 2 car dealers have been gotten a reprieve, but for many of these dealers that are targeted for closure, they are it in these small towns.
Right, and I think what is most critical to understand is that many of these are small businesses that have been sent a letter from the federal government through the President's Auto Task Force that essentially says you will close down without rhyme or reason and an ability to respond. So I'm part of a bipartisan effort now to make sure that Minnesota franchise laws are followed first and foremost, and also that we understand more of why these dealers were picked and there's not winners and losers, because they employ quite a few people. There's more jobs here than just one auto dealer that's running the operation.
All right. Let me ask you about legislation that you were a co-sponsor of that was, I believe, back in March, calling for more oversight of the stimulus money. A lot of Republicans have been very critical of some aspects of the stimulus. How do you think it's going, and what are your concerns in terms of the money and how the oversight is going?
Well, one of my biggest concerns with, first of all, only in Washington would they send out billions of dollars without really following where the money's going to. And so I was part of an effort that sponsored legislation successfully to have the Special Inspector General track where a lot of these bailout funds are going. That's appropriate from accountability and transparency for taxpayers. On the stimulus side, that's a bill that was rushed through in a hurry. I think it's appropriate for Congress to look at how we can stimulate the economy. But unfortunately, only about 10% of that money has actually made it into the economy right now. And the Speaker of the House was here in Minnesota just a week ago, championing, I think, 40 jobs that were created. So I think Congress can do a lot more to help job growth for small business rather than a lot of these bailouts.
Let me ask you about some of the other legislation that you've been involved in. One is a child trafficking measure. Tell me about that, because I think a lot of people might not be familiar with that.
Well, and this is one of those issues that I learned more about as I've gotten to know some other members of Congress. But there are about 150 million children around the world that get basically employed and put aside for child trafficking. And these children breaks up families, they go into slavery and in poverty. And it's an opportunity for our State Department with Secretary of State Clinton to really work with some countries to target certain countries where this has been abused. And as the father of 4 daughters, I can sure appreciate how we don't want to rip families apart. And so I think you're going to see efforts of how the U.S. can make sure its foreign aid is going appropriately targeted towards countries where there's been a huge abuse in this area.
Right. And you actually have been commuting. I mean, you are a father of 4 young girls. Well, you do have some teenagers, too.
I do.
Yeah. What's the age range?
15 down to 7.
7, okay. And they have stayed here. You have actually been in Washington. I mean, what is that like? That's got to be hard. I mean, with Father's Day coming up, I mean, it can't be easy.
You know, it's not easy, but I'm blessed to have a family that's supportive of what I'm doing in terms of public service. But it is a challenge. And I have 4 girls. They're active in their schools, which just ended now. My wife just finished student teaching, so she's getting her master's in teaching now. And we'll start teaching, I think, this fall. So it's been an adjustment, to be sure. I go back and forth. I'm back home every weekend.
Yeah.
And they'll come out and visit me. They're going to do that in a week, and they'll have a chance to go to the White House as a part of the White House picnic. So once-in-a-lifetime opportunity for them, too.
I hope to have a dad that's a congressman.
Yeah.
There's some perks there. One thing I want to let people know is that you are very active on Twitter. I'm a big fan of Twitter, but you actually put out messages about what you're doing in terms of legislation or on the floor. Tell me about that, and what kind of feedback have you gotten?
You know, the reality is that so many people communicate and network and socialize in different ways right now, and this is a great way to do it efficiently and speedily. So I'll just send out a quick note if I'm going to speak on the House floor on an issue, if I'm in a certain meeting that might be of interest, and people will jump on my website. They can get more information, and we've had great feedback. We really have, and so it hasn't been used that much in the past, and we're getting a larger following.
Right. Well, and it's interesting because I think people can really, if you want to know what Congressman Paulson's doing, you can check in with that. And some members of Congress are very into it, others are not. Obviously, it's sort of like the rest of the general public. But obviously, it's worth for you.
And I jumped in right away because I just think it is a great way to communicate with and the numbers are growing. And so it's the way people communicate now. People are busy, and so this is a great way to touch them in different ways.
Well, I'm going to be going to my computer and following you immediately. I'm not yet one of your followers, but I will be. Anyway, thank you so much, Congressman Paulson, for coming in.
Thank you.
We appreciate it.